Welcome back. My name is Dr. Zia. I welcome you in my research methodology lecture series. In this lecture, we would be talking about the fourth aspect of or fourth step of research process. The first one was the broad problem area. The second one was preliminary data gathering. The third one was problem definition. And the now fourth one is theoretical framework. What is theoretical framework, or what is the need of theoretical framework? How variables are fit in the theoretical framework? These are the important aspects. The theoretical framework and its basic 5 features we would be covering today, and how hypotheses can be developed. What is the need of theoretical framework? Why there is a need? After completing the literature review or interviews and collecting the information and defining the problem, now you are ready to develop a theoretical framework. Theoretical framework, or what I call TF is a conceptual model of how one theorizes or makes logical sense of the relationship among the several factors that have been identified as important to the problem. There must be a flow logically from documentation of previous research in the problem area. That is important. Integrating one's logical beliefs with published research. That is important. So, in sum, theoretical framework or TF discusses the interrelationship among the variables that are deemed to be integral to the dynamics of the situation being investigated. By developing theoretical framework, it is postulated, or the researcher postulates or hypothesizes that test certain relationship, and this to improve our or his or her understanding of the dynamics of the situation. So, on the basis of this, we can say that from theoretical framework, testable hypotheses can be developed to see whether the theory formulated is valid or not. Then these hypotheses are tested through statistical tests or any other tests and statistical analysis. By being able to test and replicate the findings, we become strong to have conviction in the rigor of our research. You remember rigor? I taught you in my previous lectures. If you don't have the understanding about rigor, please go through my previous lectures where I talked about the hallmarks of scientific research. Okay, thus the entire research rests on the basics of the theoretical framework. Remember, even if the testable hypothesis is not generated, still the well-developed theoretical framework is enough to examine the situation under investigation. So, in theoretical framework, the most important thing is variables. What is a variable? How can you define a variable? I would request you to pause my video and comment below. Put your input below. What do you understand by variable? All right. There are variable is an entity or a phenomenon which is destined to change, which is constantly changing. Okay. So what are the different types of variables? There can be multiple types of variables, many different types of variables, but 4 main types of variables are here, which I'm going to share with you today. Number 1, dependent variables. Number 2, independent variables. Number 3, moderating variables. Number 4, intervening or mediating variables. So variables can be discrete, like male, female, or continuous, for example, age. Variables can be what we call extraneous variable that confound cause and effect relationship. We will discuss later on. So there can be exogenous variables, there can be endogenous variables. Okay, we will mainly focus here on 4 types of variables. Number 1, independent variable. Number 2, dependent variable. Number 3, moderating variable. Number 4, mediating or intervening variable. Okay, number 1, independent variable. What is an independent variable? An independent variable is one that influences the dependent variable in either positive or negative way. It means when the independent variable is present, the dependent variable is also present. It can be when independent variable increases in its ratio, in its volume, in its intensity, the dependent variable can also increase, or vice versa. It can be as if independent variable increases, the dependent variable may decrease, or even vice versa. Okay, now let's move to the second variable, that is dependent variable. Dependent variable means that it is possible to have more than one dependent variable in the study. It means that the effect, if some independent variable is creating some effect, the effect aspect of the study is called dependent variable. But remember, you need to go for multivariate statistical analysis as per research design if you have more than two dependent variable, or mean more than one dependent variable actually. Okay, moderating variable. A moderating variable, I should say that it is one that has a strong contingent effect on independent variables. Dependent variables relationship means it has an impact on independent and dependent variables relationship, the linkage, the network, the connection. It has the impact on the connection of both. What does it mean? It means that the presence of third variable, that is moderating variable, modifies the original relationship between the independent and dependent variables. Let's move towards the fourth variable, that is called mediating variable or intervening variable to some extent, I say. It is the one that surfaces between the time, the independent variable start operating to influence the dependent variable, and the time their impact is felt on it. There is thus a temporal quality or time dimension to the intervening variable. The intervening variable works as a function to the independent variable operating in any situation, and helping to conceptualize and explain the influence of independent variable on dependent variable. It means that independent variable is creating an influence on dependent variable through some third variable, that is called mediating variable. Okay, so theoretical framework we were talking about. A theoretical framework can be simple as well as complex. Let's see what are the components of theoretical framework. Remember, there are 5 basic features that must be incorporated in any theoretical framework. Number 1, variables clearly identified. Number 2, discussion on relationship of variables. Number 3, nature and direction of the relationship. Number 4, clear explanation why we would expect these relationships to exist basis on previous studies, means based on the literature review. And number 5, or the fifth one, schematic diagram or mental map of the theoretical framework that makes easy for the reader to understand. My name is Dr. Zia. I thank you very much. Please like and subscribe and share the video lecture if you like it. See you in my next lecture.